Hello DevOps people, welcome to Full Stack Live, my mostly weekly live coding stream. I love it when these sessions are interactive, so don't be shy. If there's anything you'd like to share or ask, just tell me in Twitch chat. I'm happy to have you here, and in today's session I'm going to do something that I haven't done in a while, which is take something from my actual work and try to do it live. I started my own live streaming project end of last year to always have something to work on without having to rely on work stuff, but from time to time when the right thing pops up at work, then I will still take this on stream. So the thing I have to do this week is change the behavior of one of our models in our main Rails application for our hosting dashboard. The thing is, sometimes when certain information in our hosting dashboard changes, the data has to be not only stored in the database as usual, it also has to be sent to our system automation software, to Chef, in the form of a JSON hash. So, for example, if website information changes, say someone has changed the domain name of a website or something, this needs to be packed into a JSON hash, which is then sent to our system automation software, which then takes care of making all the necessary changes in our infrastructure. I remember doing or trying to do this with a concern, but somehow didn't manage to do it. I actually don't remember why it didn't work. It's been years since then, but I then chose another approach. I used a Decorator pattern to add the Chef exportable functionality to the models that were connected with Chef. This works, but has a severe downside because if this Decorator class isn't used, the Chef export doesn't happen. And that's the case, for example, with the administration layer we've put on this dashboard software. We use the administrate gem, and while administrate, of course, saves the data to the database via the Rails model, it doesn't trigger the Chef export. So we might, it happened quite often until we got used to it. Oh, sorry. Until we got used to it, that we made changes using administrate, and then a few hours later we wondered why nothing happened, and that's because administrate doesn't know of the Decorator class, which takes care of the export. Let's take a look at how the code looks like. So at the moment, for example, we have the website model that has lots of stuff. Seems to have a few hiccups, and then there's no concern here. I remember there being one once, but Where did I put that stuff? Oh yeah, I just left it in the models directory. So we have a chef storable, which is a simple delegator. And we can initialize a chef storable instance with a website class or with a website instance, and then we have redefined the save and update methods and the delete method here, so that it does the usual stuff, and on top of that it saves the data to chef. And as I said, if you use the chef storable class, this works perfectly. If you don't use it, if you forget to use it, and you do a simple model update, for example, instead of a chef storable update, or if you use something like administrate that doesn't even know that this delegator exists, things will not go according to plan. And that needs to change, because that's really a source of problems. So, I'd like to revisit the option of making this a concern, and I have the suspicion that back when I tried it as a concern first, I simply didn't know a certain Rails feature that will allow me to make this quite simple. Sorry for the coughing, I had a cold, or I'm still having one, I guess, and that was in part also the cause why I didn't do any live streaming last week. Okay, so what I'd like to do today is see if I can turn this delegator into a concern that is tightly coupled with all the models that require it, and which will make it more or less transparent, and even administrate will then trigger a chef export without knowing it. Let's start as always by creating a branch with the issue number. The issue number in our internal repository is 429. So let's go ahead and create 429 chef exportable. And then I'll have to read up on concerns, so I do know what I'm doing here. Let's see. Let's pick the most recent articles. Just have a quick glance over things. Okay, so we can go ahead and simply make our delegator a module, and a module that extends active support concern. Let's see and try this. Concerns. I guess we can simply move this here. I probably should use git move. To add app models concerns. So it's not a delegator anymore, it's now a module that extends active support concern, and we'll get a bunch of class methods. I don't think I'll be able to use protected here. And in every model I need the chef export, I'll include it. Okay. So, for example, in website. This also applies to all the models that are dependencies for websites, for example, SSH keys. Database. Components. I don't think it's required here. Let's see. What auxiliary domains, for example, needed. Okay, that should be it. These four. Oh, let's keep it open. Database, SSH key, website, box domain. As I said in the beginning, don't be shy. Give me a shout if there's anything you'd like to ask or to share. So, what else do we need to know these things? So the suspicion I have is that I simply didn't know that you can use the active model hooks or application record hooks in a concern as well. So let's see. Rails model actions. Active record callbacks, that's what I meant. Especially the after save callback. So, if I'm right, I should be able to do a after save. Hey WorldWake, how you doing? Happy to have you on the stream. Today I've decided to take some work, some actual work into my live coding stream. I'm trying to replace a Decorator class in our hosting dashboard application with a concern, because that will make things much cleaner and more transparent and less error prone. So the after save hook should then simply call the chef save method. That way we don't need these decorator methods. Is there an after delete as well? There should be. After destroy. Perfect. So after destroy should simply call chef delete. And the chef parent method that we are already using should by default return nil. And that should be the trick. Just to explain this logic, the main model that needs to be exported to our I just saw what you wrote, Wardwake. That needs to be exported to our chef server is the website model. Well, it's me who's doing the work. You just can lean back and watch. Don't let me destroy your relaxation. However, the website model is dependent on basically these four submodels here: SSH keys, databases, aux domains, and Redis services. So the Redis service itself needs to be pimped as well. And if one of these models is changed, for example, if we go into administrate and make a change, then the concern should trigger as well. The changed Redis service is saved, which should trigger the chef save method here, but the Redis service itself doesn't have anything that's exported directly, because everything is merged into one big website JSON hash, and so if the Redis submodel here is changed, it needs to trigger an export not of the Redis model but of the website model. So that's why we have this chef parent method that either is nil if it's the parent model itself, or Redis service should have a chef parent method with which it doesn't have. This is a bug, I guess. Because, for example, here the SSH key class does have a chef parent method, and it returns the website attribute, which is the actual website that is depending on this particular SSH key instance. So we've also uncovered a bug here. So the Redis service needs to return website, namely the website it belongs to, as its parent. I'm not sure if parent is the right word here, but at the time, a few years ago, I didn't I couldn't think of anything better. Maybe today I can. So, in this case, website should return nil as its chef parent. Yep, it does. And this means if I save the Redis service, chef save will check if the parent is nil, which it isn't, and then it calls the chef save method of the parent. So we don't need to use the decorator here anymore. We can simply go and say, okay, if you have a parent, then call the chef save method of your parent. And the same goes for the delete. Actually, the delete also calls chef save because it means that if it's a dependency, the parent model needs to be saved because it has lost some information now. Only if it's a root instance, then we'll do a delete, an actual delete on the chef server. And I'm not sure if you need this variable here. No, I don't. And I think that's it. It's much simpler. I was able to throw away a lot of these decorator methods, and it's much more readable because I only have 3 methods here, and they're pretty clear in what they do. Okay, let's see if our tests are still working. The tests might have been related to the old implementation, so let's see how this works out. But I'm pretty sure that Chef Storable spec won't work anymore. So I guess we can delete this one. Do we still have tests that check the chef stuff? Chef integration, yeah. Okay. Chef Storable was a shared testing set, so let's restore this. simply check it out. Can't remember that stuff. Yeah, okay, that did the trick. Oh, look at that. So this was confusing. Okay, I still can delete this. Chef Storable spec. Be deleted. And then I have the shared examples here that try and test this stuff. Describe to chef, which is a chef data, chef parent. Okay, let's go ahead and run the tests. My development environment is in Docker, and that's why I can use Docker Compose, exec app break spec. And I realized that this isn't nearly enough. For example, if we have a chef storable model, we need to make sure that if it gets saved, it creates a update job. So I should probably still check out my initial test here. Don't even check for jobs here, so this is pretty thin test coverage. It tests a bit of stuff, that the right methods get called, but okay, once again I can delete this because it's of no use to me, I guess. That's exactly why it's good to pick up stuff you've done years ago and try to make it better, because it clearly shows that I didn't put enough time into this back then. Okay, so this doesn't work. To copy and paste from the internet doesn't always work. Surprise. I think I need to leave off the double colons. Let's see, we had 5 errors. And this should reduce it to 4, I guess. So World Wake, sorry. How are things? What's going on in your neck of the woods? Still 5 errors because website chef exportable isn't a proper module as well. So let's get back to our concerns. City ground letting the brain do its thing, solving some problems. Isn't that amazing? You can simply let your background processes work and work out something you've wrecked your head over. It often works, and when it works, it's brilliant. Typical shower solutions. Okay, let's see. It doesn't seem to help. I'm just not sure how the namespacing works here. Oh, I'm just an idiot. It's called Chef Storable and not exportable. No wonder. It doesn't work. Okay. Ruby definitely is something worth learning. I've learned a lot of programming languages over the last 4 decades, sorry. And Ruby is both powerful and fun, and that's a nice combination. Okay, so now we are running into a problem, and I hope it's due to my coding and not to something basic, because I really hope I can use the after-save hook here, otherwise everything here is moot. So let's see. Callbacks. Working concerns. Here we go, using a callback in a concern. And what I have to do is included do. Okay. See, that's what I meant. Something that I overlooked or simply had forgotten. Ruby is strong in the web environment, especially with Rails. Okay, still have a chef exportables strewn into here in aux domain. It's a storable. Chef storable is so adorable. Yeah, especially with Rails, but also with other frameworks like Sinatra or something like that. And I haven't actually learned Python, but what I've seen so far is that in terms of object orientation, they are pretty close, I'd say. So wait, what's that? This indentation doesn't make any sense, does it? We'll see what Rubocop has to say about this, but say this should look like somewhat like this. That way it stays readable. Okay, still a few errors. Okay, that's the integration tests failing. I guess I should start with the website spec. Bundle exec, rspec, spec models, website spec. Let's see how a single test works, because I think it's something fundamental that's going wrong here. Okay. How good is Ruby with multiple processors? I don't have any experience with programming parallel stuff in Ruby. No, I can't answer that. No idea. I haven't even read much about this. Sorry. So let's see. Undefined method chef save. Yeah, that's right, because we need class methods instead of instance methods for that stuff. This will be interesting. Let's see. Wait, why are these class methods? I've copied that without thinking. Yeah. it's not supposed to be a class method, simply. But chef parent might be a class method. But still, it's not necessarily one. And I can make it a class method later if I find it helpful. Experience is not very good at that stuff until you're doing specific stuff like HTTP requests, getting Python to use our course. Difficult if not impossible. Yeah, I think that might be the case with Ruby as well, but there are extensions that allow Ruby to... look at that, it's all green. That allow Ruby to respond to multiple requests, for example. So there is multi-threading or multi-processing capabilities built in, or at least available as a gem, but as I said, I have never done anything in that region. So let's see, behaves like chef store or chef data. So chef returns a hash, chef parent returns and for data back items. Yep, that's interesting. At least with my limited test coverage here, things seem to work. But we still need to make the core thing testable, which is if I do an update, it needs to create a background job that does the chef update as well. And that doesn't seem to get tested anywhere. Few failures. Would have been surprised if things had worked from the beginning. There are Ruby gems like, for example, if I recall that correctly, the event machine gem that probably do some multi-threading. Too many failures. Chef Storable does not implement new. Oh, there is still. Okay, yeah. These allow the tests themselves seem to be broken. Okay. So let's take a closer look to the tests here. So database manager spec. I will have to build this now. Yeah, the GIL is a problem, that's right, the global interpreter lock. I haven't looked into it in detail, but I've heard it mentioned in talks, and it seems to force serialization. And yes, it's basically a locking problem, because running the same code with the same data. Yeah, well, in general, multi-threading is tricky, because suddenly you are in a situation that you have two pieces of logic in parallel that basically don't know of each other, and don't know which data each other the other is handling, and parallel programming has always been a challenge. And some languages are built for that. For example, Elixir is especially built for highly parallel processing, and some languages aren't, especially if they are interpreters like Ruby or Python. So we'll have to change this a bit, because the logic basically is now built into the model itself and not into some external class. So I guess I can change this in a way to say expect website to receive chef save and return true. Okay, that should fix this problem. SSH key maintenance does the same thing. Strips SSH key maintenance. Okay. Of course, there are many places where we are using chef storable explicitly, because it was a decorator before. So what we need is to find chef storable wherever we are using it. things will become much more transparent. You're not the only one watching, you're the only one chatting. Oh, if this actually works, it'll be so much better. Not having Chef Storable in every single file here and having it happen automatically. It's also very strange. Why don't I use website from the start here? Okay. Let's close a few files here. The only thing I'm afraid of is that 1.5 hours into this, I realize why this didn't work when I tried it for the first time a few years ago, and I've simply forgotten the reason. But I still count on the fact that my Rails knowledge is a bit better than back then. Cannot be done in certain situations. I guess we can lose this file. Just simply look for Chef Storable new. Okay, but we're almost done. Okay. Yeah, thanks for your effort. Yeah, but that's streaming live. Not everyone is inclined to chat. Some people simply have it running in the background and don't pay particular attention. So I don't mind people just lurking. We all, on the other hand, we had very lively discussions in the past. Just depends on the right people and the right topic. So what I've already seen from this list here is we only have one It Behaves Like Chef Storable test integration here, and I think it really should look like each class that does include Chef Storable should also have a test that invokes It Behaves Like Chef Storable. So this needs a bit more work here as soon as we got things working normally again. It looks like there's only a handful of errors left. Let's see. User edits a website adding an SSH key. Website SSH keys to include SSH key find by description test key. This doesn't work. So it looks like somehow this isn't working. Let's take a look at the other errors, because here expect DB name to DB owner name, and now this is DB seems to be nil. Okay, again, I guess we can fix this. Let's see, we can fix this. Website's controller spec for the API. That's the first error here. New website doesn't exist here. And, I think I've accidentally added an @ sign in App Controllers Websites Controller. It's in Create, I think. I think we can work with @ website here. I try to write tests first. I've recently made a resolution to do more test-driven development, but in many cases, especially with older applications like this one, many tests are still missing. The whole application has pretty good test coverage, but when I created this application a few years ago, I oftentimes didn't really know how to do things, especially if they got complicated, as in this case, where you have multiple things that need to interact, and I just didn't have the vocabulary to express these tests properly, and oftentimes I tried to write a test and then I couldn't wrap my head around it, and since the application needed to go online, I decided to launch it without this particular test. But now, a few years later, I think I should be able to build these things properly, and with new applications I'm actually making an effort to do test first. I've just recently written an article about that on my Full Stack Sensei blog. Let's see. It's actually called Test Driven. And it's got a good talk here from Ruby Hack, and that was a bit of inspiration to really focus on building tests. Especially this quadrant 4 approach here, or the quadrant 3 approach, that's what I meant. No, it's not that. Quadrant 2. Behavior known, implementation unknown. Oftentimes I'm doing more quadrant 3 because I have a lot of experience programming. I look at a problem and immediately think of an implementation without thinking about the desired behavior, and that often leads to implementation without tests, because I can't really verbalize what the test needs to test, except if I write a test that directly tests the implementation, which doesn't make any sense. And these were the tests I wrote, and then I realized, well, it's actually just a repetition of the implementation, and this test won't have any effect or won't tell me anything about my code quality. And so I've thrown away these tests. And the guy here, David Brady, he recommends doing quadrant 2 development, where you know what your code should have as results, and you pretend or actually don't know how the implementation looks like. That allows you to write a test because you know the behavior before you start thinking about how to implement this. So I can really recommend watching this talk. Okay, we're down to 4 failures here. Well, and the vocabulary, of course, comes with practice, and that's actually why I'm quite happy that I'll have to redo a few of these things here, because they are probably simply done incorrectly. So let's see. Here, let's take the last example here. It expects website to have received chef save, but it did not get called with chef save. Let's take a closer look at what this test actually does. It's a API websites controller spec. Okay, so we create an admin user, log it in, then we create a website for this user. And after this we check that website has received chef save, which should happen automatically if save gets called. So let's take a look at what the controller actually does. API v1 websites controller sync. I think we should be more explicit and do the website save here. Then we can do this. And since we are explicitly calling save here, the concern should kick in form of the after save callback here. And that should cause chef save to be called. Sorry about all the coughing. I hope I'll get over this cold quickly. Okay, let's run this test alone. Spec, controllers, API, website, controller spec. This doesn't work. On the other hand, I don't think this test even makes a lot of sense here, because sync shouldn't go as deep and look at that chef save is called. Sync simply does a forces a save of the model, and that should be tested here. And I'll have to test the chef integration at a different place. So let's see, we need to do this here. It should receive save. That's what it's supposed to do. Still doesn't work, and the description is incorrect as well. How did this ever work? Because this instance that we are creating here, this object, is never going to receive this message. Controller will create its own object, its own local instance. Have I deleted too much here? I think I have, because we need to make sure that that the website class will return our own instance here. Otherwise, this will never work. Huh. This is far too much inside baseball here. I don't like this test. It relies too much on the implementation. I guess I should rather simply call this controller action and make sure that a chef update is done, and we'll test this whole chef integration at a completely different place. Let's see. It doesn't even work like this. It actually returns the website class. So that's also we did call website save. Okay, and save returns true if it works. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. It's a bit tedious to struggle with code for such a long time. I've been at this now for 1.5 hours, but the great thing is that afterwards things are generally much better because you've introduced new knowledge into the code, you've refreshed the code, and that's what works it. What makes it worth it. I start to speak as badly as I code. So yeah, I'm nearing the end of my session time. Let's have a look at the remaining errors, and then I'll decide if I keep at it for a few more minutes or if I'd like to do this either off stream or if I'd like to keep this for Thursday. By the way, speaking of Thursday, I have been thinking about changing my schedule. It looks like not everyone is able to watch this stream, especially if they are working at this time. So I thought about doing a weekday stream, say on Thursdays, and doing a weekend stream, say on Saturday afternoon or something like this. I'll still have to check if this is even possible with my family responsibilities, but I've been pondering this. If you have any preference, if for example you would welcome me doing a weekend stream, send me a tweet at FullStackSensei on Twitter and let me know which times are okay for you and if it would be an improvement if I did something over the weekend. Okay, so let's take a look at these things. Oh. Yeah, we have something like the chef save stuff that doesn't quite work. We might even throw this out. Here it looks like the database variable doesn't seem to be populated. I'll have a look at this in a second. And then this adding an SSH key doesn't really work anymore. That's very strange. So let's take a look at this one here. Website database manager add. Website database manager spec. Website. Let's throw the chef part out. Let's keep this to the core functionality, and the website database manager is supposed to add a website. And that's mainly in the database. That we wanted to update chef as well isn't a concern of the website database manager. It's a concern of the website model, and that's where it should be tested. Okay, in this case it doesn't work. That's not an int after database. Because this one doesn't seem to work. Let's take a look at website database manager. That's here in services. Not sure why I've built it this way. It seems to be quite hacky. I'm using create bang here. So if it can't create the database, it'll actually fail. So I have no idea how database should be nil in the first place. But obviously it is. Okay, this looks like something stupid. Expect DB named to equal DB owner name. It's simply a case of missing reload here. Because we're creating a new database directly, and then we try to get it via the website instance we've already created before. And I think it requires a reload to populate this database's proxy. And only then we can find the database. Interesting that it seemed to work fine before. Cool. Okay. It's always amazing me that this person carrying the same name as me made such strange decisions and created such a mess. That feel when you're revisiting old code. Okay, the remaining errors seemed to look a bit more, a bit harder to crack, so I guess I'll postpone that either for doing it off stream and then reporting back on Thursday, or simply resolving them on Thursday. I'm not sure how I'll go about it yet. So I guess it's time to wrap this session up. That's it for now. I hope you found it interesting. Please hit the follow button and tell your friends and colleagues about the stream. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch on my Twitter at FullStackSensei. I'm going to upload a recording of this session to YouTube. You'll find it at youtube.fullstacksensei.com. Make sure to subscribe there as well to get notified when these recordings go up. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.